challenges that they're having mostly because of humans. My favorite hobby is to research things that I'm interested in, and I've spent about 80 hours since New Year's just learning about honeybees. And the reason why I decided to get into honeybees was while I was still on active duty in about 2011, I heard about the California colony collapse disorder, and didn't research it too much because I was too busy at the time, but had no idea what was going on. But they lost billions of bees they had no idea why. 80,000 colonies just died in California in the almond crops. And until, according to an Ohio State University webpage news story, their paper is still being peer reviewed right now, but Associate Professor of Entomology, Dr. Reed Johnson at Ohio State, figured out the mystery of what it was. It was a combination of herbicide and a fungicide that each one alone were fine, but mixed together killed a bunch of bees. California is the only state in the union that at the time had a law that required that all agricultural chemicals were documented at time, date, type of application, where it happened. With that data, Dr. Reed Johnson was able to figure out, but it wasn't until January of 2019 that he even put in his paper, so it's still under review. But, carry on. So for all recorded history, humans have relied on bees for pollination for our crops. 33% of our global food production relies on pollination from bees. But in the last 50 years, they've started having more problems. So what I'd like to talk about is how there's been an increase in parasites and viral diseases. There's been what's caused that is modern agricultural practices, and then there's also human-induced problems with just pollution and general habitat encroachment, where we're taking away a lot of their food and habitat sources. To start with, varroa mites, where we go to parasitic and viral diseases. There's something called a varroa mite. It's the #1 culprit right now. You can see here's a reference. That's a varroa mite on the bee. The varroa mites aren't new, but according to a study by Sabrina Rondeau, there's in the last 50 years they've been devastating honeybee hives, and people aren't sure why, but they started to figure out the problems why. The varroa mites are not new. They've lived symbiotically with honeybees for most of history, but in the last 50 years something's changed, and the question is what? The primary problem with varroa mites is that they're a vector for viruses. By themselves, they feed on the honeybee's liver. But then as they do that, they inject viruses that end up causing even a bigger problem. So on to viruses. Dr. Philip Moore from the University of Tennessee Department of Entomology listed 24 different viruses that are hurting honeybees worldwide. I only picked the top 3 to keep it short. Black queen cell virus, which it targets the queen pupa and will take out a colony. Deformed wing virus, they don't die, they still are born, but they're useless. That just kills them. And then the sackbrood virus, they call foul brood, because it'll make your hives stink. The pupas die in the comb. Next, we have the question is, why are these viruses that are coming through this parasite now in the last 50 years starting to cause problems to bees that didn't have problems before? So modern agricultural practices, starting with herbicides and insecticides, you have something called neonicotinoids that are they're banned in Europe. Europe is totally banned, and we're going state by state in this country. There was a study by, come on to my next piece here. Gina Tanner, who was studying Austrian honeybees and how the neonicotinoids are getting into honey, as well as causing death to the bees. It's either causing birth defects if they're just low exposures, or it can kill them completely if they happen to be right where it's been applied. Next we have, this is an herbicide, but it's 2,4-D sodium superphosphate. Same thing. It doesn't necessarily kill the bees just if they have light exposure, but it causes all kinds of birth defects. And this one is not been banned yet at all. Next we have genetically modified crops, which the crops themselves aren't the problem, but we're modifying crops so that we can blast them with more chemicals, herbicides, fungicides, insecticides, and in the process of that, it's affecting the bees. The companies that create these agricultural chemicals fund their own research and then tell the FDA it's all good to go. So we need to be being more proactive with our regulation, because if we could end up like the Romans, who ended up killing themselves slowly, making themselves more stupider because they invented lead water pipes. So we're spraying chemicals all over the place, and I can see us doing the same things to ourselves. Lastly, we're just human general population. There's been colony die-offs near industrial factories and stuff. It's not widespread, but our pollution will kill honeybees. We're also, every time we build new houses or take away forest land, I didn't know this when I first started getting into beekeeping, but trees are the primary source of protein and pollen for honeybee diets. Flowers and stuff like that, that's what they do in between tree blooms to just keep active, but their primary source of food is trees. And when we're taking away forest land, we're also taking away natural hive habitats, which right now, there are no more wild bee colonies. They're extremely rare. Most bees that exist on planet Earth right now are being used as commercial pollinators. Humans are taking care of them, but we've destroyed it to where if we were not helping bees right now, because it's economically lucrative to do it, people make a profit off of it, but if there was no profit and nobody decided to do it, we'd have killed ourselves already. So this is just more GMO kind of stuff. This is birth defects that chemicals cause, different than the viral birth defects. When you have that happen, within a winter, if you have a colony that gets this kind of damage, and then as they go through the winter, they won't survive it. So, and it's just a big loop between our chemicals, it causes an increase of the parasites that bring viruses, that bring death. So, in conclusion, I got into beekeeping because I'm interested in how things work, and then this became more interesting when I realized that human survival depends on the bees, and we're killing them, which will kill ourselves. So in the last century, we've had an increase in parasites and viral diseases that are affecting honeybees. The reason for that is our modern agricultural practices and other sources of pollution and general habitat encroachment, taking away their primary food sources. So if all the honeybees in the world died, humans would die too. But if all the humans on planet Earth died, the bees, the challenges they're facing would be pretty much gone. That's it.